Hello, class. I just am posting this little lecture to give you a few examples of how you should be thinking about the final project, which will be due in the next few weeks. And I just wanted to start by saying that all of the images and the things that I'm going to go over in this lecture are actually things that I don't want you to actually work on to use in your final projects. The reason for this is because in past semesters, I've had students basically copy my examples and do exactly what I said, and so that's not really showing me that you're thinking critically or really doing any type of intellectual work around this project. So in other words, I really want you to end up using these examples as a way to start thinking about how you'll use a historical example, like the ones I'm going to go over, to inform your work. Notice that your inspiration can vary in many ways. So I'll go over a few in this PowerPoint. One is that you can reference an historical example stylistically, otherwise thematically, perhaps conceptually. Maybe you're inspired by an artistic process, etc. So basically what you're going to be doing in this final project is picking a piece that you've been inspired by, something that you really liked throughout the semester. And so hopefully you found a few things. Maybe you'll remember back to a chapter that you particularly liked, back to a piece specifically that you really thought was cool for whatever reason. And that can be what you choose to reference in this final project. So find something that you really, really like, and from there, you're going to, in some ways, create your own piece of work. And I know many of you are thinking to yourselves, I'm not an artist. I can't do this. I'm not going to get a good grade. That's actually not the idea behind this project. It's okay if you've never done art before. Most of you are not art majors, right? This is 1301, so this is a class that is mostly non-art majors, and that's okay. The reason why I do this project is because for this class, I really want you to actually start dipping your toe in the creative process. And so many of you would say, oh, I'm not creative, that's not my major. Well, you'd be very surprised. And hopefully you've learned through learning the vocabulary of art in this class, thinking about all of the ways in which we talk about and think about our visual surroundings will help you to kind of find this kind of creativity in yourself in this final project. So a lot of students, even though they're not art majors, find this final project really to be quite fun. And once again, I'd like to note that these are just examples. Please do not use these in your work. Again, I don't want to see one of these examples used in your final project, because then I know you've only looked at this PowerPoint and used what I gave you. So let's take a look at some examples. Another important thing to note, a lot of students who don't look at this PowerPoint will accidentally do this. So I'm glad you're watching this PowerPoint. Please do not redraw or remake a work of art from an historical example that you choose. This is not the assignment. Rather, I'm asking you to choose a piece and create your own unique piece inspired by whatever example you choose from the book. So you could be inspired in a variety of ways, stylistically, say you like the style, conceptually, perhaps you really like the concept behind a work, or thematically, maybe you just like the theme. If you do have questions about this, please email me. If you really are not sure if you're too close to an example, just email me and ask me. I'll get back to you relatively quickly and I'll let you know what I think about your example and the work that you're doing. I'm going to stress this and I'm going to say it one more time because it happens every semester and I don't want to give you a bad grade. I want to give you a good grade. I want to give you a fabulous grade based on a really wonderful piece of work that you turn in. But if you say that you decide to do Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night, which is a very popular piece, and you just paint me a replica of that painting, I will say, no, you did not do the assignment. This is not what I wanted. Rather, if you really liked Starry Night and you said, oh, I really like the expressive and gestural brushstrokes that the artist used, and then you create your own painting, of a flower or something like that. But you use those gestural, really thick, kind of sloppy brushstrokes, and you cite Van Gogh as your historical example for something that you were interested in stylistically, then I would say this is fabulous, wonderful job, bravo, and I'll give you a great score. So I hope that that clears things up for you. Now let's think about, so I just gave you one example of Van Gogh. Let's think about a few other ways that you might use any work from your book. Here you see the work by Julie Green, The Last Supper, a really fabulous work that we've talked about. Here you might be inspired by the theme of the work. So remember that she was inspired by the high execution rate in America. So maybe you could create a piece that deals with the theme in any medium or connect it back to this work thematically in your final project essay. And that's the other thing that we'll get to in a second is not only are you creating a fabulous piece of work, you're also going to be asked to write a very short essay to explain to me what's going on in your work, just so that I have some reference point. You could also be inspired here by the repetition throughout the piece. Remember, she made hundreds of these plates. Here you see an installation view of these plates. So perhaps you're really interested in repetition as a device that's used within an artwork. So here she's using an object over and over and over. She's using repetition to make a point, right? This is a point that she's making specifically about the high execution rate in America and the last meal of prisoners. So this could also be something that inspires you. Perhaps you do create a painting in which you use repetition or something like that. And then you could reference Julie Green in this work. Or perhaps you could be inspired by the neoclassical style. If you were looking perhaps at this piece by Jacques-Louis David, The Death of Marat, recall that neoclassicism can be defined as a style that draws inspiration from the classical art and culture of the ancient Greek and Roman past. So you could create a piece with any medium around any theme and make the style of the piece neoclassical, relating to this or other neoclassical pieces in your essay. So this piece is also a political commentary by the artist. During the French Revolution, you might recall that he renders the figure Marat as a martyr. Marat, remember, was a revolutionary. He was a journalist working during the French Revolution. So here the artist, and of course he was murdered at that time. And so he renders him as a martyr for the cause. Remember, this painting looks a lot like images of the Christ at the time, where we see very specific references to images of Christ coming off the cross. And so perhaps you're interested in something that is actually a political commentary, much like this one, and maybe that could be something that you create a piece around, and then you'd elaborate in that in your final in your little essay that you include in the piece. Here you might be inspired by the theme of aging. Recall we looked at this piece by Nicholas Nixon, The Brown Sisters. Then you take this interest in aging of the human body and apply it to something in your work, referencing this work in your essay. So recall that Nicholas Nixon created a series of images over years, each year taking a picture of these same four women, of course his wife and her sisters, and then actually making it a commentary on aging itself. One thing I wanted to mention with this specific piece, please do not use this piece. Over and over and over in this class, I've had people use this anyway, and they just put a picture of themselves when they were a baby and then a picture of themselves, like a selfie now, and they say this isn't references Nicholas Nixon's piece, and it looks at aging, and I'm like, no, you can't do that. So I want you to actually create a piece. Don't use an image that you took a year ago and turn it in. That's not going to work for me. If you use an image that you took a year ago and you do something interesting with it today, perhaps you alter it in some way, then I'll accept that. And again, if you have questions about this, please just let me know. Here's another example. If you were to look at Caspar David Friedrich's work, here maybe you'd be inspired by the movement of Romanticism. Recall that an aspect of Romanticism is in this interest in the sublime, the expansive power of nature over man. You might let this theme inform your work. Then you, of course, reference this work or any other romantic work in your essay. And I also wanted to include this one because I wanted you to know, you can use any medium you want. You could paint, you could draw, you could do a print, you could create a sculpture, you could create a craft. it's endless options, a three-dimensional work, a video work, and I also wanted you to know you could use a performance or a photograph. So here we have Kim Suja, who created this performance, A Beggar Woman, and here we just have a video. This is a still clip from a video projection that she took of the piece. So you could turn in a video. I've had students do it in the past, and they've been really great video works. So you could reference Kim Suja if you wanted to, if you were doing an interactive or performative piece. Maybe you were drawn here to the theme of global poverty. Remember, this is what she's actually referencing in this piece. Either of these might inform your work, which you'd then write again about in your essay and reference perhaps this piece or other performance pieces like this. Another example, with a work like this, you might be inspired by the piece as a memento mori. Remember, we've talked about this quite a bit throughout the course. This is the idea that everything in life, including life itself, is temporary. So you see here the piece of work. These were very common, especially in the during the 15th century and the 16th century, to have these beautiful and very elaborate works, still lifes of um, beautiful food, fruit, lobster, as you see here, bread, um, really beautiful pieces on the table. But of course, we know that behind this piece lies the message that all of this beauty in life, this elegance is temporary, right? Food rots. It's not good forever. So just like life itself, this is temporary. So we know this to be the theme of memento mori. We've talked about this a lot in class. Perhaps you would reference that theme and then let it inform your work and then write about a piece such as this or other memento mori that we've seen in class in your essay. And one more I just wanted to write place on here for you. Maybe you'd be inspired by the style of Impressionism. There's all sorts of styles we've looked at throughout the course. And so perhaps you really like this gestural and impressionistic brushstroke that's used by Claude Monet. And so if you were interested in that, if you wanted to create a painting or something like that where you really were very gestural and impressionistic, obviously you wouldn't copy this painting, but you'd create something of your own, right? Maybe something in your backyard or something like that, and then reference this painting as you use the same style as it. So basically, those are some really great examples. I hope that those get you started thinking about what this final project means. Here's a few guidelines. So make sure that you include an image of your piece at the top of your paper. This is an online class, so I won't be collecting these pieces of work. Rather, you need to document it in some way. So use a nice camera. Usually an image on your iPhone will work just fine because the cameras on our iPhones are so great right now. So take a photograph, make sure it's high resolution, a good photo so I can actually see what you've produced. You could take a detail or two if you want me to see details of your work. So you can include 1, 2, maybe 3, one will suffice though, of your artwork. If it's a sculpture in the round, please take multiple images so I can see it all around it. And you'll place that at the top of your paper, and then right below that you'll have a picture of the historical example, the piece that you are actually referencing. Those will both be at the top of your paper. I want these papers to be 12-point font. Font should either be in Times New Roman or Garamond font. I don't want any weird papyrus fonts, right? Double spaced, please, 1-inch margins. And you're going to save and upload your paper as a Word document or a PDF. No other formats will be accepted. Please follow these guidelines. If you don't upload your document as a Word doc or PDF, I will not accept it. I will have to email you during finals week, and there's only a few days in which I'm going to be doing this because I'm actually going to be traveling right after finals. So I'm going to have to email you, and if I don't hear back from you within a day, I'm just going to have to give you 0, and I really don't want to do that because I want everybody in this class to do fabulous. So please, please, please make sure it's in one of these 2 formats. There are other formats that Blackboard doesn't allow me to open, so I won't be able to view your piece. Okay. Other things I wanted to mention that aren't here is that the historical essay doesn't have to be very long. Ideally, 1 page. That's not a lot. Double spaced, that's only half a page double spaced. If you want to go up to 2 pages, that's just fine for me. So it's 1 to 2 page essay, nothing more. Please don't send me a 5-page essay. I don't want that. All I want here is for you to answer a few questions, and these are also posted as part of the assignment outline within the assignments tab on Blackboard. But here are some questions you can reference when you're writing that essay. First of all, I want you to talk about your piece. Why did you choose the historical reference that you chose? What did you like about it and what were you drawn to? Why did you make specific artistic choices when creating your own piece? What's different and what's similar to the historical referent? And what works and what didn't work? Are the things you liked about your piece and things you didn't like that you wish you could have improved on? Um, Further than that, I want you to also elaborate on any details, any things you think I should know about this piece. I can't get the full understanding of your piece through photographs, unfortunately. Um, so this is where you can elaborate, like, say you created something really cool out of newspaper articles, and I can't tell that you made it out of newspaper articles because it's an image. So then include that in your piece, right? Maybe you use some kind of weird uh, found object that you found downtown McAllen or something like that. Well, I'm not going to know that. So you can include something like that in your essay if you have little um, things that you want to elaborate on. So basically, that I hope that helps you to understand what's going to happen with this final project. It's always super fun for students to do this project, I find, because it allows them to access the creative process and have a little bit of fun with it. It is worth 25% of your grade, so please take it seriously. Please don't turn in like a doodle that you made the night before. I mean, obviously, I'm not grading it on how much of a master you are at work. I don't expect an amazing painting. I really don't. But I do expect that you engage in the creative process and try your hardest. And I'm going to understand that you didn't try very hard if I see a doodle, right? If I see like a pen and paper doodle. So please do try to kind of give yourself time for this work. You've still got a few more weeks left to do this. 4 weeks or so. So take your time. Let me know if you have questions. I'm happy to talk with you, set up a meeting, whatever you need. And I look very forward to receiving your pieces.